can start. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to my session. I know that JavaScript is really a hot topic today, so I think it's really time to make it seriously. So first, my name is Romain Linsolas. I'm working for Société Générale Bank, which is next sponsor for the next DevOps France conference. I'm mainly I'm mainly a Java and web developers. Before I really go into the presentation, I wanted to say that a Quickie is really too short. 15 minutes is really too short to explain everything. So do not hesitate to contact me after the presentation or to look into Google for more details. Also, I've made some choices of tools and services today. Maybe in 2 years, if you look into what happened in 2 years, maybe this tool will not be available or obsolete. Maybe so. Sorry if some of them are not a good choice in 2 years, but and also my accent is not really good because I'm French. So. A complete software factory is made of a lot of things, of services, of tools, and some of them are really not related to the language you are working on. For example, I'm thinking about the source code management, the bug tracker, and everything here is not dependent to JavaScript, Java, or any kind of language. So continue to use what you have. Normally, most of you here are Java developers, so I think you have a complete software factory already existing in your organization. And that's my first advice. Don't repeat yourself. I think you know all this principle, dry. When you start coding, you don't want to write 10 times the same code, so you try to not repeat yourself. In Software Factory, it's the same thing. As I said just before, we already have a complete Software Factory to run our Java application, to build the application. So some of the tools can be reused in JavaScript. My first example is a continuous integration server. You can use Jenkins to build your JavaScript application. Also, one of the tools that can be really interesting for you is Sonar. Sonar Cube is the new name of the tools. So this kind of dashboard, I think you know it because most of you, I think, use it already on Java code, and it's really easy to get this kind of dashboard on JavaScript. And in fact, to be completely honest with you, there is only one thing that is not necessarily easy to get. It's the code coverage. In fact, it can be tricky depending on the tool you are using to execute your test, but this can be done. I'm going really fast on the next slide because I'm talking about Maven. You can use Maven to execute some JavaScript task, but really use it if you have a Java web application that is built with Maven and you have perfect lifecycle execution, and you just want to add new tests. You can include some Maven plugins to run the test. But otherwise, please do not use Maven. You have indeed a lot of tools dedicated to JavaScript development, and that's my part here. And unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to explain everything here because there are plenty of tools. So I really want to focus on Yeoman. So who knows Yeoman, or at least one of the tools? So not so much, maybe 20%. So Yeoman is basically divided into 3 applications: Yo, Grunt, and Bower. So what is Yo? Yo is an application scaffolder, which means that, let's say I want to start to develop a web application. So I install Yo on my computer, and then I run a simple command, Yo web app, and it will ask me eventually some details. For example, here I want to start an application, a web application with Bootstrap and Sass, and then it will build some stuff. And at the end, after a few seconds, I will get a full structure in my directory. So it's based on Grunt and Bower. I will explain just after that. And with a simple command, I can run a server and get some skeleton of an application that is really working. So maybe you know already the principle of Maven archetypes. In fact, it's almost the same thing here. You can create with only one command a skeleton for, let's say, a Spring MVC application and so on. The second part of Yeoman is Bower. Bower is mainly dedicated to manage your dependencies in JavaScript and also to package your application to make it available. A little, you have an example here of a really basic Bower configuration file. So you define your application properties, and you also indicate which kind of dependencies you want to have in your project. It's again a little bit like Maven dependency management, and like Maven, it downloads a lot of dependencies every time. It's not perfect, but it's a good tool. The last part of Yeoman is Grunt. Grunt is maybe the tool you have to remember from this session. It's a task runner. So what kind of it's like Ant for Java if you really want a global picture. So what kind of task I can ask Grunt to run? It can be a compilation. For example, if I write my code in CoffeeScript, it can be translated, it can be compiled to JavaScript using Grunt. I can also ask Grunt to do some testing, the minification of my JavaScript or CSS file. It is also available. It is also capable to lint my code, which means it will analyze the quality of my code. You can generate documentation. You can make deployment. One example of a good usage of Grunt, you have a plugin called Watch. The principle of this plugin is to look at a directory. And every time something is changed, for example, if I save a file, it will execute a task. So what I can ask to watch is to watch my source directory, and every time I save a file in my file system, it will execute my test. So with this simple configuration, I can have directly an immediate feedback on the execution of my test. Yes. You can also configure it to reload, to automatically reload your web application every time you made a modification. So the good news is that you have really lots of plugins for Grunt. Last week, I counted more than 1,600 of plugins. Of course, some of them have high quality and the other are not, but you have really a large ecosystem for Grunt. And when I execute Grunt on my project, what it will do, it will first read a grunt file.js, which is a little bit like the build.xml file in your application. It will read all the tasks defined, and you can, as Ant, you can define dependency between tasks. So in this example, I don't know if everybody can read, but it's not really important because it will execute different tasks. So it will first clean my server, execute tasks, copy files, and so on, and at the end it will restart my server. So it's really a powerful tool, and I think it's one of the tools you have to really look at after this presentation if you want to make a good industrialization of your code, JavaScript code. As I said, there is a lot of tools on the JavaScript ecosystem, and most of them, I don't have the time to explain everything, so I can recommend you this good presentation made by Adi Osmani, The Landscape of Front-End Development Automation. You will have a deeper explanation of Yeoman also, and many other tools are presented in this presentation. I created a bit.ly link so you can reach this presentation easily. Also, this presentation has been already uploaded on Parlays, so no problem. A software factory is not only a matter of tools. It's also a matter of good practices. And one of the best practices is a test. Who here is doing tests on JavaScript? Okay, so it's quite good. Maybe half of the room is doing that. So you don't have any excuses. If you do JavaScript, you have to write tests. You have a lot of flavor for your tests. For example, if you prefer to write unit testing, I can recommend you, for example, Jasmine, which is quite popular. It can be also used for functional testing. This is a basic example of tests written in Jasmine. So you can see, for example, the before each part, which is like the annotation before in JUnit. And you can see also that it's quite readable with the expect function for the assertion. And if you write this test in CoffeeScript, I think it's even more expressive, because you remove all the keyword function and the parentheses, so it's more expressive. If you prefer to write BDD, behavior-driven development, there is also an implementation in JavaScript of Cucumber platform system. So I'm not going into the details here, but if you don't know what is BDD, really in short, you define a feature which is a set of scenario. You have in each scenario you write something like with a given context. When an action is made, then I have some expectation. And of course, as you write this in English or in French or in any language, you have to translate it into a real code. You have to write the glue code, which is what you can see in the background. JavaScript is mainly used on the client side. Even if you can do it with Node.js on the server side, it's mainly used on the client side. So you can also ask me to create front-end tests. So here is an example with Casper. So the principle here is I'm connecting to my application. It's just the login page. So I fill my username, but I don't fill the password. Then I click on a button. And I expect at this step that an error message is displayed. So here I'm mixing both action and assertion. And what can be also interesting is at the end of this, in the then part at the bottom of the screen, you can also ask Casper to capture the screen. So it's easily this way to debug your test. The interesting part here is Casper.js, as well as other test framework, are using headless browsers, which means it's not using a real browser. It's this way it will be really performant compared to, for example, Selenium, which needs a real browser. So my point here is to say that you have really the choice when you want to test in JavaScript. Here is an extract of maybe the most common framework or library to test. You have also Karma, which is developed by the AngularJS team. So you can really do what you want. And I think today you have no excuses if you don't want to write tests in JavaScript. It's not that complicated. So I'm almost at the end of this presentation, so I want to make just a quick summary. So remember to use already what you have on your software factory. You have JavaScript dedicated tools, especially Yeoman and Grunt. And finally, you have to write tests. It's really important if you want to be confident in your code. And also, because you have to remember that in JavaScript, this statement is true. So we started just a little bit before the time, so I have the time for maybe for one or two questions. I think no. So thanks for coming to this session, and I hope you will enhance your JavaScript with this advice.